You speak your future into the world. You speak your future. Whatever you say, whatever falls off your tongue, when you say I am, right? The unconscious mind says, and you are so. Whatever comes on the other side of that. And so you asked me a hard question, which one is most important? It starts with the thought. I think the thought is that's where everything originates. And then you add a whole lot of turbo boost to it with your tongue.
Most people are not living their dreams because of fear, ladies and gentlemen. I was in Columbus, Ohio yesterday speaking for a particular Ohio department. Young lady named Karen who greeted me, who organized the event. Very talented, very skillful. And she was talking about she wanted to become involved in the consulting business. I said, why aren't you doing it? I said, you have the abilities. I said, you're not here because they like you. You're here because you're doing the job. You're making things happen. And she came up with all kind of ideas, but finally she said, I guess I can't see myself doing it. I guess I'm afraid. Fear, limited vision, and lack of self-esteem is what keep most people doing things they don't want to do. I flew from Columbus, Ohio to Denver, Colorado to a major communications company. And the person that picked me up at the airport told me about the fact that the company was planning on having a major downsizing. And they offered some of the employees there an early retirement, and some of them will earn as much as $300,000. And they said, this is the last time that you can take this offer. If you don't do it, when we have the downsizing, you might be among those who will lose their jobs, and all you will get is your severance pay. And only 50% of the people who were eligible to take the $300,000 took it. The others were afraid to take a chance on themselves. The others couldn't see themselves beyond that company. They couldn't see life after that company. The same reason that people stay in relationships where they're abused or they're unhappy or it's unfulfilling. They can't see themselves beyond that relationship. They can't see themselves enjoying life without that person. They think that this is all that they can do. The same reason that people get stuck at a certain level in life. They can't see things being better for them. And they think that this is it and this is all they deserve. This is all they've ever seen. It's been passed on to them. And they think that this is it for them. Oh no.
Everybody experiences extreme stress at some point in their life. I don't care who we are. Something happens outside our control and it hits our life and it knocks us on our tail. It might be a health stress. It could be something with your family. It could be economic, career. It could be something emotional that happened, biochemical. There's so many things. It could be an environmental situation that had nothing to do with you. Every one of us in our lifetime are experiencing extreme stress. And these days, because of the economy and the way we respond to it, the majority of people are experiencing some form of extreme stress, at least according to polls. Stress doesn't come from the facts. Stress comes from the meaning that we give to facts. Yes, those things have happened, but the real question is, if we fight what's happened, we've got a problem. We've got to decide, what are we going to do with what's happened in our life? How are we going to take this? How are we going to mold this? How are we going to turn our life around? Because when you come up with a new meaning, you get a new life. We're going to take a look at something from a different perspective. We're going to ask you this question. What is the single force that controls the quality of your life? If there was one gift our Creator has given us, or the universe, whatever you believe, what is it? What is the one power that you have right now in this moment that can change everything? You have it, I have it, we all have it. This one singular individual power that can change anything in our life, regardless of what's happened to us. And I know you know the answer. The answer is the power of choice. The one thing we have in this world is we can't control the events, but we can choose what to focus on, we can choose what things mean, and we can choose what to do. Those three choices, those three decisions really control our life. It's not so much the conditions of our life that control our destiny as much as the decisions of our life. Try for a second to think about something. Think about your life. And just think about, are there a few decisions? If I were to ask you 2 decisions you've made in your life, you know, that if you would have made a different decision, you would have a totally different life. I mean, it may be a life may have been better or may have been worse, I don't know, but you would have a different life. I'm not asking you to buy into the fact that you should have known the answers. I just want you to see the power of a decision.
Do you want to go to college? I say, yes, ma'am, I'm going to college. She said, Inky, the chances of that happening, slim to none. Like, I'm not trying to crush your dreams, but I can't play with your future. It just doesn't happen. I said, just give me a shot. The first day I get to the school, I see why everybody said what they said. There was a cop at every single door and metal detectors. And I'm still hyped. My man starts searching me. His exact words were, "What's your plan, little man?" I said, "Oh man, I'm going D1, I'm going to college." He says to me, "You'll probably go to cell block D1. He said, "You had two uncles coming to the same place, great little ball players." He said, "Aren't they serving 13 and 40 years at the federal penitentiary, not even 10 minutes away from these front doors?" I said, "Yep." He said, "Exactly. Apple don't fall far from the tree." When I got my scholarship from Tennessee and got back to Crim High School, the first person I went to see was that cop in the lunchroom. He said, "How did you do it?" He said, "The reason I said it to you," he said, "don't get it twisted. You thought I was trying to break you. I wasn't." He said, "I seen so many kids step up to me and say the same thing. They end up dropping out their freshman year. And so I wanted to challenge you to see, would you retreat or would you step up to me and fight for the thing that you said you wanted?" I'm intrigued in life how when a person say they want something and the only thing it takes is for the circumstance to change. I'm intrigued by that. Right? How a circumstance can take that away. In life, people don't burn out because of what they do. People burn out because life makes them forget why they do it. When it's about something greater than themselves, the opposition, the adversity, and the challenges are part of the journey. That's why it's so easy to spot people that's just out for their personal gain, because all it takes is for something not to go the way that they thought it was going to go, and now they no longer want it. And so when I got to Tennessee, it was Mayberry for me. And I come into my junior year, and I'm about to get exactly what I want. I'm about to get this thing called NFL. This thing that I've been working for. Like everything revolved around this game, and I finally get in the position in my life to where now I'm 10 games away from it. NFL on top of the paper. Inky Johnson projected top 30, automatic multi-millionaire. Just play the next 10 football games, Ink. You made it. And I go out in a silly game against Air Force, and I go to make a tackle, and when I hit him, every breath in my body left. I fall to the ground, I blacked out. When my eyes open, guys run over, "Ink, let's rock, man, let's go, let's finish him off." And I'm like, I can't. They said, "What do you mean you can't?" I said, "I can't move. I said, I can't feel anything." Doctor says to me as he's walking beside me, "I don't know how you're still alive, son, you don't have any pulse." I'm sitting there and people coming into my room like, "Inky, man, I'm sorry about what happened to you." Like, "Man, that's really the only thing you wanted, huh? Like the only thing you really wanted was the NFL, that's it." I'm like, "Man, you limited God to that? Like life holds no substance, no value? And now the thing I placed my identity in, now it's gone." That's why I laugh at people when they say, "Man, if I could just get this, I'll be. Man, if I could just get this amount of money, I'll be." I'm like, ooh. What happens when God says yes and no? Like, do you have the ability to accept what you don't understand? Can you handle when things get off course? I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, like, man, I'm 8 games away. Like, let me get the contract, then redirect me so I can help my family. And God's like, "No, son, I need you to really go that way." And I'm like, "You sure? Like, I need to go this way." He's like, "No, I need you to go this way. I got something greater for you." Now, it might take a little longer to manifest, but I got something even sweeter. I got something, son, that's going to carry you for the rest of your life. And I thought it was over after football got redirected. My life got redirected 2, 3 more times before I even fell into my purpose and my mission. I'm thinking I'm going to be a coach. God's like, "No, you ain't." I'm like, "Well, maybe I'm supposed to go back to Atlanta and work in my neighborhood at the rec center." I get to Atlanta, I call the guy, he don't answer the phone. The only thing I had at that moment was a prayer and a book. And the prayer that I prayed was, "Lord, I don't know what you want me to do. But people keep coming to me, telling me, speak. Inky, you need to speak." And I'm like, "I'm not speaking." People coming, "Inky, you need to speak." I'm like, "No, man." And God brought me to the point where I had nothing, and I was on my knees. I said, "Lord, listen, I don't know if this is what you want me to do, but I submit, and let's rock." And the next morning I woke up, I had my book I had written, and I got up and I looked at my wife. I said, "I'm going to take this book to Oprah." "Do you know Oprah?" I'm like, "Nope." "You know anybody at Harpo Studio?" I'm like, "Nope." She said, "Go for it." And so I got my book, I got my suit, it's hot. Every door that opened, I ran in it. "Hey man, Inky Johnson, drove from Atlanta." They're like, "Get out of here." So after getting kicked out like 4 doors, I go to the back of the building. I sit down, I put my back on the building, look up to the sky, and I'm like, "God, thought it was you." And I get up and I walk around the side of the building. I look down the sidewalk, and at this moment, there was nobody but Oprah and the security guard. She said, "Hey, that's a nice suit." I said, "Thank you." I said, "I drove from Atlanta. I wanted to get you my book. So would you mind taking a picture?" We take a picture, and And I'm going to walk off, and her security says to me, "Hey, young man, come here." He said, "What just happened never happens." So I leave, I start to put the picture on social media, send it to my friends, everybody's reaction. "You gonna be on a book club? You gonna be on a show?" I'm like, what just happened? Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And I'm like, God, are we moving like that? Don't know nobody on Oprah's staff, and look at my wife and say, I'm going to meet Oprah. And God puts me face to face with Oprah and puts the book in her hand. I said, God, let's go. I live my life a certain type of way according to the power that I know the Lord possesses. I live my life a certain type. Like when I go to the Lord in prayer, I go bold. And I know the initial reaction when we go through things is to say, man, why did this have to happen to me? And it's an honest reaction. And some of the things we go through, I'm gonna just be real, it's not a scripture for it. But this is what I've understood. In life, some people don't need you to preach a sermon, they need you to live one.
I was in the Green Party, and I was still working for the BBC as a television presenter, and both were leaving me completely cold. You know, the BBC, it's not a great organisation to work for if you care about the truth and you care about, more than the official version of everything. And I also was looking at the Green Party politics from the inside and seeing that it was just like every other party. And so I was, what do I do with my life now? Because I can't go on with either of these. And what happened was a very strange thing happened, because in the early part of, what would it be, 1989, I started having this feeling that when I was in a room alone, I wasn't alone. And it's like there was an atmosphere there. There's something there. And through 1989, this got more and more and more powerful, to the point where in early 1990, I was working for the BBC, and I was staying at a hotel called the Kensington Hilton, just down from the BBC headquarters. And I'm sitting on the side of the bed, and in this apparently empty room, and there was such a sense of a presence there that I said into the room, you know, if there's something there, would you please contact me, because you'll drive me up the wall. Few days later, I'm on the seafront with my son Gareth, little boy then, in Ryde, where I live on the Isle of Wight, and I go into this newsagent shop where Gaz was looking at one of the books, and I said to him, come on Gaz, we'll go and get some lunch in the town. And as I said it, it was like the atmosphere changed, like the energetic field around me changed. And all I heard, it wasn't a voice, it was a very strong thought form. It said, go and look at the books on the far side. And I'm standing there thinking, you know, basically, I start walking across to the books in a daze, thinking, what is happening? And I knew this bookshop. The books it sold were for, you know, the tourists that come to the Isle of Wight. They were basically Mills and Boon and you know, perfectly formed English roses and having relationships with perfectly formed, you know, uniformed soldiers and all this stuff. So I'm thinking, what am I going over here for? But right in the middle of these books was one called Mind to Mind by a woman called Betty Shine. A picture was on the front. It was different to the others, so I picked it up and I turned it over and I read the blurb. And she was a psychic. An English psychic, and she was telling her life story. So I bought the book, read it in 24 hours, found it very interesting, contacted her, because I wanted to go and see if she would pick up what the hell was happening around me for the last year. And so I went. I told her nothing. What I told her was, because she did this hands-on healing as well, which is just an exchange of energy. You know, it's not mumbo jumbo, it's an exchange of energy.
Reiki.
Yeah, it's just an exchange of energy, that's all it is. But anyway, I told her that because I said, I've got arthritis, maybe it will help. Because I didn't want to give anything away what was happening to me. So I'm sitting on this bench, this medical type bench in her front room, and, you know, she's chatting away, and she's doing the whole, you know, hands-on healing just next to my left knee. And suddenly, the atmosphere changed again. And I felt like a spider's web on my face. Now, what hit me was, in her book, she said, when other levels of reality are trying to lock into you, you sometimes feel like a spider's web on your face. Well, I know what that was now. It's electromagnetic energy.
But if you listen carefully, you'll hear another voice, the voice of faith, saying God has a way. Favor is coming. Healing is coming. Breakthroughs are coming. One voice will tell you, you've reached your limits. You've gone as far as you can. You don't have what it takes. The other voice, you are well able. You can do all things through Christ. Your best days are still in front of you. Now here's the beauty. You get to choose which voice comes to life. The way you do it is by what you speak. When you verbalize that thought, you're giving it the right to come to pass. If you go around saying, the problem's too big, I'll never get well, you are agreeing with the wrong voice. You've got to get in agreement with God. The other voice may seem louder, but you can override it. You can take away all of its power by choosing the voice of faith. Maybe you're going to a job interview. One voice will tell you, you're not going to get it. You're wasting your time. These people are not going to like you. Another voice will say, you have the favor of God. You're blessed. You're confident. You have what it takes. But if you get up that morning and tell your spouse, I don't think I'm going to get this job. They're not going to like me. I'm not qualified. There's no use even going. You're being trapped by your words. You have to dig your heels in and say, I am not giving life to any more defeat. I am not speaking lack. I'm not speaking sickness. I'm not speaking mediocrity, not enough. I'm going to choose the voice of faith. It says I'm strong, I'm healthy, I'm blessed, I'm favored. I am a victor, not a victim. When he faced Goliath, it looked impossible. All the odds were against him. If he would have verbalized his negative thoughts, that would have kept him from his destiny. Even though he was anointed to be king, those negative words would have kept him trapped in the shepherd's fields. He could have easily gone around saying, well, I know I'm supposed to face Goliath, but look at him. He's twice my size. He's got more experience, more equipment, more talent. I don't see how this is ever going to work out. You can talk yourself out of your destiny. Negative words can keep you from becoming who you were created to be. Don't fall into that trap. Quit calling in defeat. Quit talking about how it's not going to happen. You can pray in faith. Ask God to turn it around, to do the impossible. But then walk away and start talking about how you're not going to get well, how your child's never going to straighten up. Those negative words just canceled out that prayer. Well, Joel, I'm having this financial crisis, and I prayed and asked God to help me, but I don't see how it's going to happen. No, zip that up. Father, you said you're Jehovah Jireh, the Lord my provider. Lord, you've done it for me in the past. I know you'll do it for me again in the future.
But while we go for certainty differently, if we get total certainty, we get what? What do you feel if you're certain? You know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. What would you feel? Bored out of your mind. So God, in her infinite wisdom, gave us a second human need, which is uncertainty. We need variety. We need surprise. How many of you here love surprises? You like the surprises you want. The ones you don't want, you call problems, but you need them. So variety is important. Have you ever rented a video or a film that you've already seen? Who's done this? Why are you doing it? You're certain it's good because you read it before, saw it before, but you're hoping it's been long enough you've forgotten enough there's variety. Third human need, critical, significance. We all need to feel important, special, unique. You can get it by making more money. You can do it by being more spiritual. You can do it by getting yourself in a situation where you put more tattoos and earrings in places humans don't want to know. Whatever it takes. The fastest way to do this, if you have no background, no culture, no belief in resources or resourcefulness, is violence. If I put a gun to your head and I live in the hood, instantly I'm significant. 0 to 10, how high? 10. How certain am I you're going to respond to me? 10. How much uncertainty? Who knows what's going to happen next? Kind of exciting, like climbing up into a cave and doing that stuff all the way down there. Total variety and uncertainty. And it's significant, isn't it? So you're willing to risk your life for it. So that's why violence has always been around and will be around unless we have a consciousness change as a species. Now you can get significance a million ways, but to be significant, you got to be unique and different. Here's what we really need. Connection and love, fourth need. We all want it. Most people settle for connection because love's too scary. Don't want to get hurt. Who here has ever been hurt in an intimate relationship? And you're going to get hurt again. Aren't you glad you came to this positive visit? But here's what's true. We need it. We can do it through intimacy, through friendship, through prayer, through walking in nature. If nothing else works for you, get a dog. Don't get a cat, get a dog. Because if you leave for 2 minutes, it's like you've been gone for 6 months when you show back up again 5 minutes later, right? Now, these first four needs, every human finds a way to meet. Even if you lie to yourself, even if you have split personalities. But the last two needs, the first four needs are called the needs of the personality, is what I call it. The last two are the needs of the spirit. And this is where fulfillment comes. You won't get fulfillment from the first four. You'll figure a way, smoke, drink, do whatever, meet the first four. But the last two, number 5, you must grow. We all know the answer here. If you don't grow, you what? If a relationship's not growing, if a business is not growing, if you're not growing, it doesn't matter how much money you have, how many friends you have, how many people love you, you feel like hell. And the reason we grow, I believe, is so we have something to give of value. Because the 6th need is to contribute beyond ourselves. Because we all know, corny as it sounds, the secret to living is giving. We all know life's not about me, it's about we. This culture knows that, this room knows that. And it's exciting. When you see Nicholas up here talking about his $100 computer, the most passionate, exciting thing is here's a genius, but he's got a calling now. You can feel the difference in him, and it's beautiful. And that calling can touch other people in my own life.
So when someone says to you, who are you? You are all that is, has been, and ever can be, having an experience. What you call yourself, if you meet someone and people say, well, who are you? They'll give you their name, they'll give you their job, they might give you their family background, their family history, where they went to school. That's what they're saying they are. Who are you? But that's just what they've experienced. Who am I? All that is, has been, and ever can be, having an experience called David Icke. Very brief, very interesting. The point of attention that I am is an expression of the same consciousness that the point of attention that you are is. And the same with all of us. So racism and all these isms and all these divisions, not only undesirable, they are confirmation that those that go down that road are utterly clueless about the nature of reality and the nature of who they really are. And I see anti-racists who are utterly obsessed with race when it's just a brief experience. That's all it is. You are what is having the experience. And when that penny drops and this as a result opens, game over.
If you look at any great master, they were monomaniacally focused on going deep around one thing. Khalil Gibran wrote one of my favorite books, The Prophet. I heard he carried it around with him for 5 years to get every single word right. That's a craftsperson. You know, when you look at the great athletes, I recently was in San Francisco and I watched Steph Curry play. Steph Curry was fluid like a ballerina on the court. You know, I have NBA superstars coming to my live events. And when I watch them, they are so focused on going deep around their skill versus being all things to everyone. Third mentality of mastery is the leader versus victim mentality. And if you've read The Leader Who Had No Title, you know I talk about it a lot. But you have a choice when you go to work every day. When you show up in business every day, you have a choice. You can be a victim or you can be a leader. You can't be both. And what's the hallmark of a victim? Well, you give away your power. You say, well, I'm not the boss. I don't need to bring on my A game today. Or I went through a divorce 10 years ago and I'm going to blame my ex-spouse and give away my power and be a bitter person versus an optimistic leader. That's what victims do. They say, well, I'm resigned to average. Why should I take the time to read a book, to build a friendship, to transcend a fear? Why should I do that? That's how victims think. They use words like, I hate and I can't and that would never work. And they love to criticize because every victim was once a dreamer who got hurt. And now they sit back in their armchairs and they criticize other people because they're too frightened to get into the game. So you can be a victim not only in your work, but in your life, or you can be a leader. And as you know, you can lead without a title, right? I have seen janitors behave like leaders. I have seen taxi drivers bring on their A game. I've seen so-called ordinary people running so-called ordinary jobs with a sparkle in their eye. And they work with love. They work with attention to detail. They work like their work is the most important work in the world. I mean, I remember grade 5 Cora Greenaway. You know, celebrate your mentors. And I was in grade 5 and really no one thought I would amount to very much. I was really dismissed by a lot of people. And Cora Greenaway, my grade 5 history teacher, saw something in me that very few people saw. She saw the early sparks of some kind of a talent. And because she cared, and because she was a leader as a school teacher, she spent time with me. She stayed late with me. She encouraged me versus dismissed me. And here it is all these years later, and deep in my heart, right at my core, I still feel not only appreciation, but love for that school teacher when I was in grade 5 with the glasses named Cora Greenaway. Which brings me to the fourth mentality of mastery that I want to share with you in this session. The future versus past mentality.
The target that shapes you, here's what's different about people. We have the same needs, but are you a certainty freak? Is that what you value most, or uncertainty? This man here couldn't be a certainty freak if he climbed through those caves. Are you driven by significance or love? We all need all six, but whatever your lead system is tilts you in a different direction. And as you move in a direction, you have a destination or destiny. The second piece is the map. Think of that as the operating system tells you how to get there. And some people's map is, I'm gonna save lives even if I die for other people, and they're a fireman. Somebody else says, I'm gonna kill people to do it. They're trying to meet the same needs of significance, right? They want to honor God or honor their family, but they have a different map. And there are 7 different beliefs. I can't go through them because I'm done. The last piece is emotion. I say one of the parts of the map is like time. Some people's idea of a long time is 100 years. Somebody else says is 3 seconds, which is what I have. And the last one I've already mentioned that felt you. If you got a target and you got a map, and let's say, I can't use Google because I love Macs and they haven't made it good for Macs yet. So if you use MapQuest, how many have made this fatal mistake of using MapQuest at some time? Use this thing and you don't get there. Well, imagine if your beliefs guarantee you can never get to where you want to go. The last thing is emotion. Now here's what I'll tell you about emotion. There are 6,000 emotions that we all have words for in the English language, which is just a linguistic representation, right? It changes by language. But if your dominant emotions, if I have more time, I have 20,000 people or 1,000, and I have them write down all the emotions that they experience in an average week. And I give them as long as they need. And on one side, they write empowering emotions, the other is disempowering. Guess how many emotions people experience? Less than 12. And half of those make them feel like, so they got 5 or 6 good frickin' feelings, right? It's like they feel happy, excited, oh, frustrated, overwhelmed, depressed. How many of you know somebody who no matter what happens finds a way to get pissed off? Or no matter what happens, they find a way to be happy or excited? How many know somebody like this? Come on. When 9/11 happened, and I'll finish with this, I was in Hawaii. I was with 2,000 people from 45 countries. We were translating 4 languages simultaneously for a program that I was conducting for a week. The night before was called Emotional Mastery. I got up, had no plan for this, and I said, we had all this fireworks, I do crazy fun stuff. And then at the end I stopped, and I had this plan I was gonna say, but I never do what I'm gonna say. And all of a sudden I said, when do people really start to live? When they face death. And then I went through this whole thing about if you were gonna get off this island, if 9 days from now you were gonna die, who would you call, what would you say, what would you do? One woman, well that night is when 9/11 happened. One woman had come to the seminar, and when she came there, her previous boyfriend had been kidnapped and murdered. Her friend, or her new boyfriend, wanted to marry her, and she said no. He said, if you leave and go to that Hawaii thing, it's over with us. She said it's over. When I finished that night, she called him and left a message, true story, at the top of the World Trade Center where he worked, saying, honey, I love you. I just want you to know, I want to marry you. It was stupid of me. She was asleep, because it was 3 a.m. for us, when he called her back from the top and said, honey, I can't tell you what this means. He said, I don't know how to tell you this, but you give me the greatest gift, because I'm going to die. And she played the recording for us in the room. She was on Larry King later. And he said, you're probably wondering how on earth this could happen to you twice. And he said, all I can say to you is, this must be God's message to you, honey. From now on, every day, give your all, love your all. Don't let anything ever stop you. She finishes, and a man stands up and he says, I'm from Pakistan, I'm a Muslim. I'd love to hold your hand and say I'm sorry, but frankly, this is retribution.
Goals are major to a genuinely success-oriented person. Without them, you're just playing around. The difference between a goal-directed individual and someone without goals is like the difference between a Wimbledon champion and a kid batting a tennis ball around on a court with no net, no opponent to bring out the best in him, and no way of keeping score. Despite everything that's been written about the importance of goal setting, very few people actually put it into practice. It's always amazed me the way the average guy puts more thought and effort into planning his 2-week vacation than he devotes to planning his life. What's he taking a vacation from? He hasn't really decided what he's trying to do in life, but for 2 weeks out of the year, he just decides he wants to do something else. And this is what he plans very carefully. Challenge creates strong character, and goals represent challenge in its most positive form. Leaders have their personal goals clearly in focus, as well as the goals of the organization. In fact, one of the principal responsibilities of leadership is defining goals for the vast majority of people who aren't able to do it for themselves. Over the years, I've developed some ideas about effective goal setting, and I'd like to share those with you in a moment. When I was a kid, I used to dream what it would be like to buy a ticket on a railroad train and just go someplace. I really didn't think about where I'd be going or how long it would take to get there. I just loved the idea of getting on the train and just letting it take me someplace. I guess there's still something appealing about that idea, but it's not really the way you want to live your life as a mature human being. When you grow up, you buy a ticket on a train or a plane because you want to go someplace, and you know exactly where you're going. You may have to change planes in a different city, your flight may be canceled, and you may have to switch to another flight. You may not feel like talking to the person seated next to you, but you will persist. You know where you're headed, and you're quite determined to get there. That's goal-directed behavior in its simplest form. There are short-term goals and long-term goals. Sometimes you're flying across the country, other times you're just walking down to the corner grocery store. Long-term goals are the equivalent of a major journey. When you reach the point where you've achieved your long-term goals, your life will be fundamentally changed, and the process of getting to that point will transform you into a stronger, wiser, higher-performing person than you are now. How can you identify your long-term goals? On a sheet of paper or in a notebook, write these 5 headings. Number 1, what do I want to do? Number 2, what do I want to be? Number 3, what do I want to see? Number 4, what do I want to have? And number 5, where do I want to go? Now, under each of these categories, write down several possible long-term goals. Be very relaxed about this. Just allow your mind to flow and come up with 3 to 6 ideas for each category. Don't worry about a lot of details at this point, and don't spend too much time describing a particular goal. In category number 1, for example, what do I want to do? Suppose you want to write a book about the history of your family, going back to the arrival of your great-grandparents in the United States. Just quickly jot down family history. Then as you look down the list of categories, it occurs to you that you've always wanted to see the pyramids in Egypt. So you write pyramids. Keep writing down ideas as long as the list of categories continues to inspire you. You'll probably be surprised at some of the things that turn up. You may have kept a great many desires and aspirations hidden in the back of your mind, but the opportunity to write them down will move them to the forefront of your consciousness. That's one of the benefits of this technique. When you're satisfied with your list of long-term goals, read through the list once again. Then, beside each item, write the number of years that you believe it will take you to achieve that particular goal. It's best to round off the numbers into 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10-year categories. For example, you may estimate that it will take you 10 years to research and write the book on your family history. But you'll need only 5 years to get yourself into a position where you can take a trip to the pyramids. Create a time frame like this for every one of your long-term goals. Immediate goals, those that will take less than a year to achieve, are important too, of course, and we'll deal with those separately in a moment. When you're finished entering your time frames, there should be a fairly balanced distribution of all your goals. If there are many 1- and 3-year objectives, but only a few in the 10-year category, maybe you need to think more about what you really want your life to add up to. What kind of life you really want to build over the long run. But if there's a preponderance of 10-year goals, and relatively few of the shorter-term variety, this may be an indication that you're putting things off, that you're focused too much on where you'll be at the end of the day and not enough on what you can accomplish right now. Keep working on your list, adding and subtracting goals with various time frames until you've created a more or less even distribution. Now comes the really challenging and interesting part. So far, you've just been adding things to the list, but now it's time to start making some selections. Now you're going to start asking yourself what's really important compared to what might just be sort of fun. Choose 4 goals from each of the 4 time frames, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and 10 year. Now you have 16 separate goals. So far, you've only referred to them in shorthand fashion, but now you're going to start seeing them very, very clearly in your mind's eye. You're going to see each goal just as if it were being realized this very minute. And you're going to write down a detailed description of exactly what you see. Do you intend to open a handmade furniture store in 3 years? What will the store look like from the street out front? Will there be gold leaf lettering on the windows? Or will there be a sign hanging over the door instead? How many square feet will the store contain? Will there be a showroom area for the furniture in front and a workspace in back? Or will the furniture be built at a different location? Do you intend to have any employees, or will you run the business entirely by yourself? Think of all the questions that need to be answered in order to see your goal with absolute clarity. And then write the information down in a notebook or on a piece of paper. That will become one of your most important personal possessions. But that's not all. Any goal is a powerful motivator only if there's a powerful reason behind it. Why do you want to achieve your goals? Why do you want to own a handmade furniture store, or a private airplane, or a newspaper in a small town in Vermont? Why do you want to compete in a triathlon, or visit the Australian outback, or be the first woman in your family to earn a PhD? Write down your reasons for wanting each goal in the same degree of detail that you use to write your descriptions. If you can't find a clear and convincing reason for each of your 16 goals, do some serious reevaluating. You may have more whims or pipe dreams than real goals, and now is the time to make that discovery. Keep working on your list until you have 16 clearly envisioned, strongly motivating, long-term goals. Review what you've written at times, and keep track of your progress toward these objectives. Above all, persevere. Goal setting is a very important first step, but goal achievement is a continuous, lifelong process. That's what makes it so challenging. That's also why it's so extremely rewarding to finally attain your long-term goals. With regard to immediate goals, those that require anywhere from a day to a year to achieve, I recommend creating lots of objectives that can be accomplished in a month or less. Write them down. Read what you've written at frequent intervals. Keep track of your progress. And do something often. that brings you closer to realizing these very short-term objectives. That way, you'll always have something to celebrate. These goals are not only important in their own right, they're also confidence builders and motivators toward a lifestyle based on perseverance and achievement. And
I started reading when I was just a kid. I needed something to feed my mind, and I had all the suffering, and I didn't have a way to escape. Books were my escape. That's why I love books so much. It's like I could learn from somebody from another century. I could learn by another person's life experience. And then I started to do some speaking and touching people that way. But honestly, it's never been motivation for me. It's always been strategy, because motivation without strategy is like a warm bath. You should take a bath or you're going to be dirty regularly. You need inspiration, but it's strategy too. But I know you're never going to hear the strategy unless we can move you. I mean, I do a weekend that's 50 hours. So Oprah comes and says, Tony, I love you to death, but no one sits for more than 3 hours. I can't do it. And 12 hours later, she's standing in her chair, looking at the camera going, this is one of the greatest experiences of my life. Or Usher, comes to me and says, Tony, I can't do 50 hours, dude. I just can't. 50 hours later, he's like, I laughed my ass off. This is one of the most incredible experiences of my life. So I've learned a way to refine the process to move people so that they act. If you just get pumped up, what good does it have? So this book is all these specific strategies. Here's what to do. Here's what Ray Dalio says, largest hedge fund on earth. I say to him, don't inspire me. Tell me, if your kids couldn't get any of your money, not on a dime, and you were going to show them what to do, what would you show them? What would you tell them? He said, Tony, I've spent 10 years of my life refining this process. All my money's in it. It's called my all-weather strategy, because it works. The stock market goes up or down. And he said, I've tested it back to 1925. It makes money 85% of the time. So he tells me the strategy is quite complex. And when you show it to the average financial person, they go, oh, that'll never work, because they're not Ray Dalio. They haven't figured out $160 billion to manage. It takes $5 billion 10 years ago, net worth, and $100 million for him to talk to you. Now he won't do that for even that, for any amount of money. But he spent 3 hours with me. At the end, he shows me this formula. I said, you know what? This is great, but you showed me how to make a chocolate cake. It's very inspiring. You said use some chocolate, use some sugar, but I need the actual numbers, or no one's going to be able to act on this. They're never going to figure this out on their own. And he said, Tony, that's my secret sauce. So that's how I get billions of dollars. I said, yeah, but you've not taken money in 10 years. I said, you're a generous man. You've given, half of your net worth you're going to give away? Give me the formula. Give it to me. Let's tease it. He gave it to me. It's in the book. It's one of the formulas. And when you test it, over the last 75 years, it's been successful 85% of the time, year by year. And the times it's lost, it only lost 1.6% on average. The biggest loss was less than 4% in a world where the markets go up 50% down, back.
This book's going to make people money.
It'll make people money. The beautiful part of it is they don't have to pick Ray. They can decide who they want to follow, because I give you the strategies of all the best people.
The energy. Do you ever lose your energy? Do you ever get down?
Well, sure. I get exhausted. I get mad. I get tired. I'm a human being, but it's like an athlete. You built your muscle, so it's there for you. It doesn't last. What used to last when I was a kid, a month, might last me a few minutes or an hour, something of that nature.
Don't ask for it to change out there. Ask for you to change here. Don't ask for a more favorable wind. We call that naive. Don't ask for better seed, better soil. This is the only planet you got. Just ask that you can get wiser and stronger and better, and be able to take care of your own responsibilities. Get better. Learn how to handle the seasons better. Let's go through them. Just get better at handling the winters. You can't change the winter. You can't change the seasons, but you can change yourself. You say, well, what can I do about the upcoming winters of my life? The challenges that I know I'm going to face. Here's what you can do. You can get wiser and stronger and better. Just make a list of that trio of words. Wiser, stronger. Go home smarter than you came. Go home with more ideas than you came with. Next, get stronger. You can develop the muscle. You can develop the courage muscle. You can develop the inspiration muscle. You can develop the dedication muscle. You can get stronger. There isn't anybody here that can't get stronger. Next time we see you, may not even recognize you. How strong you're going to be able to become in language, in style, and personality, the ability to cope, the ability to handle with anything that happens, no matter what happens. And the third one is get better. We can all get better. I've gotten better. First talk I gave, I stood up, my mind sat back down. But here's the secret to my success. I stood up and did it again. I stood up and I did it again. And I did it again, and I did it again all those many years ago. I did it when I was scared, and I did it when I didn't want to, and I did it when I was ill. And I did it when it didn't work well, and I did it when they didn't appreciate it, and I didn't a lot of times when I didn't know much what I was doing. I just did it anyway. And now, all these years later, I'm asked to walk on this stage with the greatest introduction I've ever had, greatest response and welcome I've ever had, the greatest opportunity I've ever had to touch this many lives with a mixture of words and heart and soul. I got better. I got better day by day and week by week and month by month, and I'm asking you to do the same thing until you can develop a long arm and a long reach, until you can develop influence that won't quit. Touch people next year you couldn't touch this year. Touch people now you couldn't touch before. Conduct a meeting now you couldn't conduct before. Heart and soul now mixed in there that wasn't there, missing before. I'm asking all of you to get better in spite of the winters, in spite of the downturn, the money downturn, the social downturn, the personal downturn, whatever it is. Just get stronger, get better. The key is not to wish for a better winter. The key is to wish for more strength, more wisdom, more courage, get better, get wiser, get stronger.
So, if you own your failure, you'll own your success. So what is personal growth? You know, I think about entrepreneurship. Some of us are in this to do social good and make money. Some of us are into this for political causes and make money. Some of us are just here to make money. But we all have different motivations. So we all define growth differently. Sometimes it's social to me, it could be personal, it could be financial, could be a bigger house, a bigger car. Whatever it is, we all define it differently. But what is common about growth? If you do tomorrow what you did today, you will get tomorrow what you got today. Benjamin Franklin. That is the definition of not growing, isn't it? If you do tomorrow what you did today, you didn't grow, did you? Then you get tomorrow what you got today. You didn't grow, did you? So there it is. If you do it the same tomorrow, there's no growth. If you attain the same result tomorrow, there's no growth. So how do we get better every day, every hour? How do we find those resources? How do we find the energy, the knowledge to do that? That's what I want to talk about. So I want to change your mindset. Insanity, you've seen this before, is doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different result. You know, years ago, I used to own 17 restaurants and bars in a bunch of states. And every September, I'd go to the property, and the GMs would make a presentation and give me their business plan for the year. And I'd read through the business plan and would say, oh, gonna raise sales by 20% in 6 months. Awesome. Tells me breakfast, lunch, dinner, late night, booze, wine. I'm in. Then next year I come back. 20% in 6 months, lunch, breakfast. And I realized, wait a minute. This is the same shit I read last year. Said by the same people who said it last year, and I'm supposed to get on a plane and feel good about this. So what does 20% in 6 months mean? Well, does anything happen next month? What about 2 months from now, 3 months from now? When does something happen? Not till the last day. 5 months and 29 days, I gotta sweat bullets. What the hell does 20% in 6 months mean? How do you get your arms around that? How do you turn it into something that's meaningful in business? So, open your mind and play with me for a moment. What business are you in? Or what business do you want to be in? Retail, customer service, consumer, B2B? What business are you in? I love it when people say, oh, I'm in retail, I'm in medical devices, I'm in, every one of these is wrong. You see, it doesn't matter what business we're in. We don't sell products, we don't sell services, we don't sell advice, and we don't sell solutions. All of that is textbook bull. Everything we do is a process, never a result. That process must establish an emotional reaction. That reaction is our product. So, let me be a restaurant guy for a minute. The cook in the kitchen is making an entree, right? He thinks that's the product. So the entree comes out to the table, goes on a table, one of two things happens. Either you sit up and look at it and react to it, or nothing happens. If nothing happens, that business is stuck in mediocrity forever. So, is the product a plate of food or the reaction that the guest had to the plate of food? Which is the product? The reaction is the product, isn't it? You see, I'll redesign that plate 30 times until you sit up. Because I understand that the product is the way you react to things. We can all buy cell phones from any company. It's the way we react to the product that matters. It's presentation, it's emotion, it's perceived value, far more than absolute value. The fact of the matter is, everything we do must create reactions. Those reactions drive frequency, drive spend, and fuel the economy of our country. And he or she who creates the best reaction wins.